In this video, I'll be breaking down the biggest lie about learning Japanese, the one belief that has quietly wasted more time and crushed more dreams than anything else, and why almost every learner falls for it without questioning it. Through reaching an advanced level myself as a completely American learner who had never lived in Japan, and then coaching hundreds of students to real fluency the same way, I've discovered that this one lie points people away from everything that actually works, and towards the one path that most of them can never take. That's exactly why I'm making this video today, to show you what the lie really is, why it's completely false, and what genuinely gets you to fluency instead, all from wherever you already live. Why most of what learners obsess over barely matters. Why do most learners pour years into things that actually don't make them fluent? Most learners love doing activities that make them feel productive. Things that make them feel like they're learning Japanese, like Duolingo, Japanese Pod 101, WaniKani, or even nowadays AI apps. And now most of these activities give you the feeling of progress because they're measurable and they're comfortable to actually do. But none of them develop the actual skills that you need in real conversation by giving you natural feedback and training your flexibility in the language. And the result is you might be able to have very basic conversations, but the second a native speaker starts using vocabulary or phrases that you don't understand, all of a sudden you'll start freezing and you won't be able to communicate effectively. And the problem here isn't that you need more speaking practice. Personally, I've worked with people who've only done speaking practice for years on end and still haven't been at the level that they actually want to reach. So apps, textbooks, and these unnatural speaking simulations that you have to do on a daily to believe that you're actually improving in Japanese is what's actually keeping you stuck. And the first thing that actually matters is the one that most people get completely backwards. What actually matters first is speaking from day in a natural context. Now, speaking is a skill that you might be practicing in a classroom already or with an AI app, but speaking from day one in a natural context where you get natural feedback is what not only builds your confidence with using the language, but also builds your flexibility within the language to choose between different options depending on what that native speaker is actually telling you. You have to start speaking early with native Japanese speakers who aren't necessarily your teacher or tutor, but real Japanese people who don't understand English. This forces you into a natural immersion where you have to use the Japanese you know, you have to be flexible with the language in order to actually have a conversation. And while it can be scary if you don't put yourself out there in these scary situations, speaking to native Japanese people from day one, if you keep waiting for that perfect moment to come, you'll never be able to build the confidence or the speaking ability you'll actually need to actually have a real conversation with a Japanese person. So speaking early with native Japanese speakers, again, not tutors or teachers, is what actually matters first. The second one is about where your real progress actually comes from, and it has almost nothing to do with your textbook. What actually matters second, real immersion beats textbook drilling. Why does real immersion matter more than just drilling grammar rules? What most beginner learners don't actually understand is that your brain is like a sponge. And even as an adult, you can actually understand a lot of language if you actually just put in a lot of input. And some people argue that that input has to be understandable, but as long as it's something that's interesting to you, but speaking from my own experience and the experiences of the learners I've coached, as long as it's interesting, then it doesn't actually matter if you can understand it. What matters more is how much input you're actually doing. But either way, input is going to be way better than actually just memorizing grammar rules in isolation. Grammar and vocabulary drilling gives you the ability to actually pick apart a sentence slowly, but real conversation moves too fast for that. So the analytical knowledge never converts to fluency. When I was studying Japanese to the N1 advanced level of fluency, I wasn't living in Japan, nor did I have any Japanese friends. So I had to get all of my input while I was still in the US. I made my apartment room my Japan by reading, watching, and listening to Japanese at almost all times of my day. And most of the Japanese, even at my beginner stages, wasn't necessarily understandable. In most cases, it was just shows that I enjoyed or games I wanted to play. But I forced myself to do it in Japanese. With the content available today, you should be able to do the same. Again, watching, reading, and listening to Japanese as much as possible. All the learners I've coached who've leaned into real input consistently outpace the ones learning in textbooks or writing out kanji over and over and over again, even when those textbook learners technically knew more grammar rules. Now that you see the first things that actually matter, if you want help building a real path to fluency from wherever you live, click the link below to book a call where I'll show you exactly how to get there for your specific goals. Let's keep going. What actually matters third, consistency beats intensity. So why does consistency matter so much more than how hard you actually study? A university in the United States actually did a study on two groups of students. Both were told they had a test in 1 month. Group A was told they can only study a week before the test, while Group B was told they had to start studying from today even if it was only a little bit every day. And what the researchers found was that on average, Group B will always outperform Group A, even though Group A was studying for hours and hours and hours the week before the test. If you only study for 20 minutes, but you study every single day as opposed to 1 hour but only 3 days out of your week, you will see better results with your Japanese language. Daily contact keeps the language active and growing, which is why it's always better to study a little bit every day and have that consistency rather than just studying really hard on the weekends. Almost every learner I watched reach actual fluency had this consistency, and some days they even only studied for 1 minute, but they were able to study every single day, which is what actually got them to their goal, not through these dramatic bursts of effort that can never be sustained. So consistency beats intensity every time. But the last thing that actually matters is what determines whether or not you're successful with any of this at all. What actually matters fourth, real coaching and accountability. Why do coaching and accountability make so much of a difference? Look, Japanese has thousands of resources available for free on the internet, so you're not lacking resources if you want to learn Japanese. In most cases, it's actually lack of structure and accountability to keep going every single day. Now, most people get this confused, but coaching is not teaching. Coaching is when you have someone right there with you, letting you know where your focus is, where your focus should be, and how to actually get to your goal. Coaching is what keeps you consistent when motivation runs out. Now, personally, I experienced this firsthand. My Japanese learning was extremely slow. I used textbooks, apps like Wanikani, and I even did do some immersion. And so it took me 3 years just to get to an intermediate daily conversational level of Japanese. But when I met my mentor and coach, it took me just 6 months to actually reach the N1 level. Now, I took what I learned from my coach and now apply the exact same methodology and training for my own students. The structure, the accountability, and the habit system that turns daily effort into real fluency. And all of this is entirely from where they live. And learners who have this support consistently outpace the learners that don't. And I'm not saying that they're more talented than people who self-study. They're just able to keep showing up, and they get the proper direction to reach their goals. Now that you see all the things that actually matter after 10 years of studying and coaching, let's bring everything together so you can see how this applies to your own Japanese. What does putting all of this together actually look like? First things first, you're going to have to remove a few things from your life. All those Japanese learning apps, Japanese textbooks, Japanese courses, grammar lists, and kanji charts. These were never going to make you fluent on their own. Next, let me be completely realistic with you. You'll have to sacrifice some time every week to talk with a native Japanese speaker who's not just your tutor or teacher. You'll have to build a real immersion environment from wherever you live and treat both as non-negotiables that you have to do every week rather than do someday. You need to build that system of having daily consistency with real accountability backing it up, where small repeated contact beats huge dramatic bursts of effort every single time. The learners who reach Japanese fluency the fastest are the ones who focus on these few things that actually matter and stop pouring time into the activities that only feel productive, which is exactly the path that I took to reach N1 before ever setting foot in Japan. Now that you've seen the biggest lie about learning Japanese, why moving to Japan was never actually required, and what genuinely gets you fluent instead, you can stop letting false beliefs hold you back and start building real fluency from wherever you are. If you want help building your own path to fluency, click the link below to book a call where I'll show you exactly how to get there for your specific goal. I'll see you in the next video.